你是这不得了呀？小张，去你对不对？这不得了。但就是的那种，就是那种。我头先甚至没写过。其实你，有人去年了大，他的那啥的地方都这些都没写过，你这些地方这些地方。We can begin our recitation. That's a good time, actually. Demo Jone de Jebo La Jomba Yandama Zube Sanye Rebana Shazu Demo Dewa Sheba Jene Jebu Dube Palo Juba Lana Meba Lana Mena De Tomba Sanye Chumden De Pejewa Shaya Tuba Shazu Jebu 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 Jomba Jomden De Sheba La Jomba Yandama Zube Sanye Rebana Shazu Dewa Sheba Jene Jemba Jebu Dube Palo Juba Lana Meba Lana Mena De Tomba Sanye Chumden Pejewa Shaya Tuba La Shazu Jebu Jebu Jomden De Sheba Yandama Zube Sanye Rebana Shazu Dewa Sheba Jene Jemba Jebu Dube Lana Meba Lana Mena De Tomba Sanye Chumden Pejewa Shaya Tuba La Shazu Jebu Jebu Kane so Kedante Sajen de la Gomba Tumorne Mane Jiden de la Joje Son Deze Keba Kyola Cha Namda Goma Jodo Suzon Yazo Serge Lobo Rama Jiden Suna Mamewa Gombo Jini Kyola Cha Senjo Demo Jimen Dave Yo Tawa Kyola Dede Kyola Ziba Zuma Nyame Kinyi Kyola In English, to the founder, the endowed, transcendent destroyer, the one gone beyond, the foe destroyer, the completely perfected, fully awakened being, perfect in knowledge and in good conduct, Sugata, knower of the world, supreme guide of human beings to be tamed, teacher of gods and human beings, to you, the completely and fully awakened one, the endowed, transcendent, destroyer, the glorious conqueror, the subduer from the Shakya clan, I prostrate, make offerings, and go for refuge. When the supreme among humans, you were born on this earth, you paced out 7 strides, then said, I am supreme in this world. To you who are wise in, I prostrate. With pure bodies formed supremely pure, wisdom ocean like a golden mountain, fame that blazes in the 3 worlds, winner of the best, Lord, to you I prostrate. With the supreme signs, face like the spotless moon, color like gold, to you I prostrate. You are immaculate, 3 worlds are not, incomparably wise one, to you I prostrate. The Savior having great compassion, the Founder having all understanding, the field of merit with qualities like a vast ocean, to you the one gone to thusness I prostrate. The purity which makes one free from attachment, the virtue which frees one from the lower realms, the one path of sublime pure reality, to that dharma which pacifies I prostrate. Those who are liberated and who also show the path to liberation, the holy field qualified with realizations, who are devoted to the moral precepts, to you the sublime community intending virtue I prostrate. Do not commit any non-virtuous actions, perform only virtuous actions. Subdue your mind thoroughly. This is the teaching of the Buddha. A star, a mirage, a flame of a lamp, an illusion, a drop of dew or a bubble, a dream, a flash of lightning, a cloud, see conditioned things as such. Through those merits may sentient beings attain the rank of all-seeing, subdue the foe of faults, and be delivered from samsara's ocean, perturbed by waves of aging, sickness, and death. The Heart Sutra in Tibetan.
Papa Kunjo Sunda Cha, Zelo Dige Dage Toba Duje, Jina Jolende, Kyogo, Chango Bungo, Longi Longi, Kanju Zembe Gindu Jimbo Dan, Da Jidu Jude, Jumde, Samona Wa Shija, Chege, Nandangi, Tinge, Zela, Nyombar Shu, Hante, Kanju Zemba Zemba Jimbo Baba Jele, Wanju Shero, Baru, Jimbo, Samu Jeba, Nila, Dambar Taji, Kumbo, Mabo, the Dala, Shiji, Tomba, Nampa, Tamu, Tene, Sanyi,
Sedan,
Deba Shari, Bo, Janju Zemba, Zemba, Jimbo, Maba, Jele, Wanju, La, Tige, Meso, Yehu, Kanala, Shiraki, Baru, Jimbo, Samu, Jeba, Jeba, Deba, Sharala Baraja, Dige, Meba, Janju Zemba,
Zemba Jumbo Baba Zede Wanjugi Sedan Deba Shari Depo Latike Meso Shari Rigi Bon Rigi Bon Kanala Sharabi Parudo Chemo Samo Cheba Cheba Deba Tera Namba Tawa Chade Pombo Ngabonde Dagan Rajinji Tomba Namba Yanaba Jesu Tawu Tomba Ni Suzu Sule Tomba Ni Shema Tomba Ni Lejan Sushi Mayi
대신도 소화다 되시다 되시다 되시나 나바시다 나바시바나 동바고 샤리고 나바나 동바니라 치메바 망가바메 주마메바 주마다 저와 저와메바 강와메바 고 샤리고 대다 동바니라 주메 소와메 되시메 되시메 나바시바메 미메 나와메 나메 제메 불메 이메 소메 다메 제메 소메 제메도 메게 가메바네 이게 가메 이게 나무르 셰베 간지 바도야 메도 마리바메 마리바 세바메 다시 세베 마도야 메도 대신도 동마와바 구르와바 고바바 가메 이셰메 토바메 마도바야 메도 셰리 대다와나 자루 세바나 토바메 베칠 셰르게 바르도 셰마바 텐진네 스르 제바메지 자바메노 젠르 로레신도 데네 냥엘레 데베 타르 신도 주존도 남바 슈베 상게 탐지 셰르게 바르도 셰마바 텐데 라나메바 야다바조베 장주도 오모조베 상게 소다와나 셰르게 바르도 쳔베마 리바쳔마 라나메베마 미냐바다 냠베마 동아한데 라도 시와르제베마 미즈바나 데바셰바자데 셰르게 바르도 쳔베마 메바다야타 가데 가데 파라가데 파라상가데 보디소 셰리부 장주 셈보 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 데다 셰르게 바르도 쳔보 사모나 파파르 테네 좀데데 땡에 젠데레 젠데 장주 셈보 셈보 쳔보 파모 셰르스 원주라 레소 셰차와 쳔네 레소 레소 리지부 데데 신노 데데 신데 젠데주지 데보 신도 셰르게 바르도 쳔보 사모나 제버자데 데지 셰보 나편제수이라 좀데데게 데게 제가 아츠네 제단데 바셰레 단데보다 장주 셈보 셈보 쳔보 파모 셰르스 원주라 탐제단 데베 코르데다 타도메다 하마예다 데자제베제데 이라데 좀데 데제 숭고라 몽바르데
Page 11. Thus I have heard once the Blessed One was dwelling in Refuge on Vulture's Peak, together with a great assembly of monks and Bodhisattvas. At that time, the Blessed One was totally absorbed in the concentration that examines all phenomena, called profound illumination. And at the same time, the noble Avalokiteshvara, the Bodhisattva Mahasattva, engaged in the profound practice of the wisdom gone beyond, analyzing the five aggregates by nature empty. Then, through the inspiration of the Buddha, the Venerable Shariputra spoke to the noble Avalokiteshvara, the Bodhisattva Mahasattva, saying, how should those of good family learn who wish to follow the profound practice of the wisdom gone beyond? Thus he spoke, and the noble Avalokiteshvara, the Bodhisattva Mahasattva, replied to the Venerable Shariputra, saying, O Shariputra, whatever son or daughter of good family wishes to follow the profound practice of the wisdom gone beyond should look at it like this, analyzing the five aggregates by nature empty. Form is empty, emptiness is form, emptiness is no other than form, form is no other than emptiness. In the same way, feeling, recognition, karmic formations, and consciousness are all empty. Therefore, Shariputra, all phenomena are empty without characteristics. They are unborn and unceasing. They are neither impure nor free from impurity. They neither decrease nor increase. Therefore, Shariputra, in emptiness there is no form, no feeling, no recognition, no karmic formations, no consciousness. There is no eye, no ear, no nose, no tongue, no body, no mind. There are no spheres of the eyes up to no spheres of the mind. There are none of these all the way up to the sphere of mental consciousness. There is no ignorance, nor is there destruction of ignorance. There are none of these all the way up to, there is no old age and death, nor is there destruction of old age and death. Thus there is no suffering, no cause of suffering, and no path. There is no wisdom, no attainment, and no non-attainment. Therefore, Shariputra, because there is no attainment, all Bodhisattvas hold to the wisdom gone beyond, and because there is no obscurity of mind, they have no fear. Passing utterly beyond falsity, they reach beyond the bounds of sorrow. All the Buddhas who dwell in the three times, by relying on the wisdom gone beyond, fully and clearly awakened to unsurpassed, most perfect and complete enlightenment. Therefore, the mantra of the wisdom gone beyond, the mantra of great insight, the unequaled and unsurpassed mantra, the mantra that calms all suffering should be known as the truth, for there is no deception. The mantra of the wisdom gone beyond is the key. This is how a Bodhisattva Mahasattva should learn the profound wisdom gone beyond. Then the Blessed One arose from that concentration and praised the noble Avalokiteshvara, the Bodhisattva, saying, very good, O son of good family. It is exactly like that. The profound wisdom should be practiced exactly as you have said, because we'll rejoice. When the Blessed One had said this, the Venerable Shariputra, the noble Avalokiteshvara, that whole fat in the world of its gods, men, anti-gods, and spirits, their hearts full of joy, praise the words of the Blessed One. So ends the noble discourse on the essence of the wisdom gone beyond. The text, the way of the Bodhisattva, when we hear the title of the text, if it occurs to us, if the meaning appears to the mind or occurs to the mind, that is advantageous.
아니 그다음 주주가도 시야기 군조 도비야 군조 숨듯이 아니 자주 셀베 줘봐서 텔 러비야 줘봐라 러비야 아니 좀바디 탭데 땡기요 다 텔 러미디 아니 수수라니 인도 아니 수수라니 다 자주 셀베 줘봐라 줘봐 아니 되지 셀나는 니에토는 시다 야고요를 숨듯이.
So this is because the very topic of the text, the practices of the Bodhisattva, give the text its name, the way of the Bodhisattva. So that is the reason. And as I outlined before, when we described the Triratna, and in particular those practicing the Bodhisattvas, and then imagine ourselves to be practicing as a Bodhisattva, the title of the text then gives guidance there.
준죽세다 줘발을 주바스 담다 줘발을 죽세 중년이다 수수 저거를 만도 아니 중년이다 거기 지금도 준죽이 뭐지 버를 저면으로 차나니 저도 따가 되게 말했어 딱 한다 수수기 샘디당 준죽나는 마시에니 뭐지 따다 되라투도 되는데 저와지도 되는데 딱이 되잖아 아니 편도 신부 요래 손이
The way of the Bodhisattva, entering the way of the Bodhisattva, and entering into the way of the Bodhisattva, one should imagine oneself doing just that. And there shouldn't be any gap between the essence of the teaching in the text and the person encountering the text. If there's some gap between the two, then the feeling, there won't be a conversion of the feeling of the way of the Bodhisattva and the feeling of the individual engaging with the text. So it ought to be that the topic of the text and the mind that encounters it come together, and that it's compelling for that mind.
식스 정도 수준에 대해 시기와 뭐 뒤랑 세문이 러브라당 베드디레스 다 전화를 가르치는 아주 다 수수고를 시기에 나는 밀룸 매겨도 있는 데 시기도 도진 싫어요 아니 마시오세 다시 시기로 왔어 밀룸 서우도 아니 시기 수도 아니 세모가는 샤 아니 찌르 아니 세트도 좀 아니 시대미데다 아니 세트도 좀 베스 두스바세 시대미데다 아니 시사도는 다들 시사자스 배터리 가오치기로 왔어. 뒤는 신신이 다 수식을 쌤 네가 샤 아니 주주기 바로 점 아니 라트 땅토나 빼야고 요래서 빼디데 더우치는 빼야고 요래서.
So there's a Tibetan saying which is like crushing a louse with one's nail, and it's for instance, if you're a person who's sort of tolerant, and if you have you have lice, and you find a louse on yourself, then you might be able to pick it off and then calmly release it. But if you're impulsive, then you might grab it and squeeze it and crush the louse. And so one should encounter and come into contact with the topic and the text like one would crush a louse with one's nail, that is, firmly in contact.
다 이제 이제 뭐하나 다 이제 아니 다 자세 전주 선배 저번에 럽세디 다 내라고 전에 말했을 거래. 오늘 전에 다 베스트 소설 당고 가진나도 원도 다 그런 주주네 지금 뭐부터 시제를 지나 신진다 나도 전주 선배 저번에 럽발라 알레 당고랑이 들리된다 쌤데 배피다 보고 이어받은 아니 델레랑이 배최 최바다 균이 많고 시우지 상고 여러 와서 제자인도 다 단에 말한줄라 균이 거리 상고 여나 있나요 차상 상여래서 제자다 균이 상에 두주되나 내 저주선에 저벌로 두주디 균 돌아마다 와서 저주선에 저벌로 러비 럽투고 쇼 내 저주선에 저벌로 럽는 수수배 되는 대화 도투에 저는 왜 사제의 저주 semmo도 기다려고 나신 나야 din나지 럽투고 쇼 뭐는데 그런 지역으로 해서.
Now the way of the Bodhisattva, the conduct of a Bodhisattva is in no way an easy practice. It's challenging. It's not easy. And as I've already outlined several times before, it requires an adjustment of one's intention and outlook. And I've already explained that at length. But when one is engaging in the trainings of the Bodhisattva, one first has to recognize that the physical basis for the training and then the mental basis for the training of the Bodhisattva is present. We have those supportive conditions, and then furthermore, we've encountered the Buddha Dharma. And so all of these very constructive conditions are present for us. So then it's our responsibility not to squander the time that we have to train in the way of the Bodhisattva. And if we do not squander that, then we will be able to achieve lasting satisfaction. And so then we make the aspirational prayer that may we practice just as the Buddhas and the Bodhisattvas of the past have practiced. I will, in fact, practice just as the Buddhas and the Bodhisattvas of the past have practiced.
전주 쌤 자연비 맞고 내가 무시들에서 무시들 제가 쌤 장원라 뭐는 원로 디 야고주 거레스 아니 뭐 장찬 제로 뭐디 야고주 거레스 제가 디 뭐만 전주 쌤 자니 가담을 남아 줘와 가담을 남아 줘고 아니 전주 쌤 장주 좀 도마 그래서는 토번이가 자원이 통매 자와가 탐매 자원이 개침부 쓰기 어레스 도마 꿀웅죄가 야고 맞으나 아니 바로 무시하고 영어 말은 제가 뭐해서 여여 말와 야 딱 무시다 뭐도다 무시니 하고 저는 제가 뭐하대요 뭐하면 그냥 개와 체결이 라도 하고 영어 말을 제가 도마다 타만님들이 장주선 양년지도 백해치고 여래서.
Now our focus, the object of our training is the generation of bodhicitta, and for the success in that actual training, we have to precede it with the proper preliminaries, and then the actual practice must be concluded properly as well. So the Kadamba masters of the past had a saying that is preliminary and conclusion. Those are the two essential components. And so it is, if the preliminary, that is one's intention, one's motivation is adjusted and properly prepared, then the actual practice, the actual training will be successful, and then one may dedicate that constructively too. But if the preliminary isn't correct, the intention is not correct, then what follows will necessarily be incorrect. And so too, if the preliminary and then the actual practice is correct, but then it isn't properly dedicated, then what was productive will be lost. So the Kadampa master said, the beginning and the end, or the preliminary and the conclusion, those are critical.
아니 치외 세단 치외 제란 치외만도 신다 관계가 몇편 오예다 대조 대진이가 다 치워면다 보지 당부 잘 개시셔는 레송이지.
So then what are preliminary considerations? What is required in a preliminary so that the generation of bodhicitta is done successfully? That preliminary entails identifying and recognizing the physical human rebirth as important, as critical itself, and recognizing that a precious human embodiment is exceedingly hard to come by, and that then death is certain, death is impending, and then that the time of death is uncertain for us. It's certain to come, but the time it will come is unknown to us. And then at the time of death, that nothing apart from the Buddha, rather the Buddha Dharma, will be of any benefit. So these recognitions are the preliminaries.
아니 먼저 전다 전수수 님부 말에 되매 제바들 방벌에서 가다면 로종나라서 전 친구이 먼저 선물도 안에 먼저 전다 님부 말에 맞에 되매지 되잖아 내 방벌에서 이제 아니 니에가와의 선물단에 니에가와의 또 선물단에 니에가와의 선물단서들 가르치겠으나 니에가와의 선물단서들 아니 정말 지난 디고 지난데 이버 디고 맞이네 최 맞아 가지고 잠에서 먹고 맞지 두 대되나 대답이요 말했어. 내가 썼나? 아니 기타면서 기배도 두 대답이요 말했어. 가르친다 멘디로와 돈다 타고서
라 디카르세 데요 말했어.
기나 기타면서 가도 두 대투에 말가도 이거 맞이나야 최 맞이와지 개와 맞이와지 두 대잖아. 그냥 핑계 말했어. 지미지 최 저거를 했어. 맨날 어디 전화드리세요. 빼디 가르스나 빼는 안들 미지기 가르치는 치고를 했으나 아니 빼는 미지기 수수라 이만직 나라 아니 직다 나도 고마이나 또 거든 고랑 빼져나는 빼디다 누굴 자리로 와 이내 너도 누굴 드리면 지도님 거게 들어셔도다 그들 빼셔 빼자 먼저 소다 친구지 미지기 야서나로 와 소다 친구지 이야지는 이만직으로 dollar per million sotu야기 아니 소라지 미지기 수수라 야소나 아니 수수기 이마직 들으는 툴라 만도와 제깔에 겸이 페퍼 내가 거리 내가 이네다 소라 같은 딜레가 따다 지기로 왔어 깔에 겸 들이 이마직 툴라 만도와 제 페깔에 겸 페샤 수구로 왔어 어디나 신 말아도 다른 것도 수부디 가르스 수부디 아주 이마직 나는 야교 직발했어 야대요 이마직 꼭 소다 수부니 가가 제루는 아니 아주 지구선에 지하요 말왔어. 제가 단단하도 밀레는 배자 전부 고급 야보 예배 주들라. 아니 저주선은 마장이 있나? 미배 내가 마저니 딱 안데 수술 고급 차선라네. 고급대 돌아다오다 집어 어떻게 집어 요를 해서 놓지. 배도 단단히 총총. 라투소.
Now to expand a little bit on the meaning of these preliminaries, when we consider the importance of the human embodiment, a precious human embodiment, when the Kadampa masters considered that, they recognized that with that precious human embodiment, if it were allowed to go to waste, that it would be the greatest shame, that it would be a great shame to have allowed that to go to waste. So recognition of its importance leads to that conclusion, that it's a shame if it's not used properly, and that it's difficult to come by. It's difficult to come by and likely in a human life, there's ample non-virtue that one will engage in. But if one doesn't engage in non-virtue, but also neglects to develop bodhicitta and to train in bodhicitta, that also ends up not being productive for the person. So why is it that it's why does one need to capitalize on this opportunity, or what's it like to capitalize on this opportunity? In the past, the Kadampa masters used the metaphor of a wish-fulfilling gym. That's sort of an old-fashioned metaphor. More apt now is just money. And if someone were to give you a loan of a factory that could produce, that could make you millions of dollars, and you had the factory, then you'd want to run the factory and not let a day pass without running and operating the factory. And so whatever it took, whatever work to run the factory, you would do that because you wouldn't want that factory to go to waste and not bring you some profit. And so this body is like a factory that has been loaned to you. It's on loan to you, and it's productive now, but it's on loan. And once the time comes when your respiration is interrupted, and the mere interruption of your respiration, then you pass away, not to get that body back again. Once that happens, you don't get that opportunity again. So it is now with this factory that we ought to work to produce bodhicitta, and that is like having a factory and not squandering that opportunity to make a profit.
Oh, yeah, that that they got the chiwa the temples, chiwa the Jimmy, chiwa the temples, never chiwa sambas. That be sweet, a lama in a pobo in a sweet, and machiwa, about the Sugan Chungyama, chiwa, never chiwa, but never. Machiwa, bacon and I, or mares, 6 years. That chiwa there, Carson Namchi Nimeres, Hadu Chido, you mentioned Hapa Yomares, round in the Yomares. Oh, yes. San이당 세치만이보다 수모를 연도이면 수강 셰도 말했어. 항상 이게 세치만이 수모를 연도이면 수강을 놔둬요. 수강을 말했어. 재산 남친 예매했어. 다 치사에 제가 먼저라 말한도 다들 유배조 얘네다. 저보 얘네 가리는 수강이 겹투게 요마다. 나들라 신발 보바칭이디 아니 내 개와이는 뒤로 보치기를 내 미교이는 뒤녀바치기로 거기 모두 시대에서 모두 년도 용을 했어. 딸내 최신 자주 선 공은 딸 개와 제시하이나 딸이 세치만 키에 열어서 링어도가 제만 개와 상볼래야다. 아니 밀려내야다 베스랑 가르 되바 이거 두비야지. 호박가 치토를 했어. 제가 예버 치워서 뭐 남친 예매서 뭐 집에서 치마도 강의되면 되면 삼아서 어디 숨기 장을 해서.
So when we consider the importance of the precious human rebirth, how exceedingly difficult it is to come by the human rebirth, then this is followed by contemplation of the imminence of death, of death itself, and that one and all alike are certain to die. There are no examples of individuals who have not died. There's no one who has outlived death, who has not died. Whether the teachers or presidents, whoever it is, of the past, they have died. None remain living, and so it really is the case that we don't know for sure which will come first, our next life or tomorrow. There's no telling whether we'll die before the tomorrow comes and we take up another rebirth before tomorrow comes or not. There's no telling which will come first, the next life or tomorrow. And so at the time of death, then, if you're rich and you have many friends, it's of no consequence, because they cannot just change the course of things. They cannot protect anybody from death. The only thing that is of any consequence at the time of death is the virtue and non-virtue that one has engaged in their life. And so if one generates bodhicitta and has generated bodhicitta, and that has influenced one's virtuous activities in this life, then the benefits of that will be carried along with a person, and that will lead to a fortunate rebirth and possibly a rebirth as a human being, and possibly conditions that will allow a person to achieve all that they desire. So these contemplations are very important. The importance of a precious human rebirth, the difficulty of achieving it, that death is imminent, the time of death is uncertain, and that at the time of death, only the Dharma is of any benefit.
다 대리인들 다 간다 치워 삼네 아니 가르치고서는 최 제고가 다 쳐가지. 치워도 성단은 아니 최 제고가 다 쳐고. 다 남지 님의 삼네 최 제대 다다는 제고를 모두 로제만 나와제만 근데 봐잖아요 말했어. 다다는 제고가 다 쳐고 했어. 다 치유의 최 모두 관계 미비마다 삼네 아니 최 코나 제고가 So
these three considerations, that death is imminent, and the two that follow. First, death's imminence. What does it? How does it influence us? It makes us decisive in our recognition that we must practice the Dharma. And when we contemplate that the time of death is uncertain, that inspires us to begin the practice of the Dharma now, not later, not in a day's time or a month's time, but now. And then when we consider that the Dharma alone is of benefit at the time of death, that inspires one to practice only the Dharma and nothing but the Dharma.
다 제가 다 드린 알레몬도 수들라 가르치기에서는 대조되지 이가 대단 치워입니다. 뭐 고바티 아니 삼로마땅이나 내가 또 삼로나 말을 검들 게 맞아버리나 아니 맞아 무식이 자월해요. 로또 말해서 무식 자월. 가서 네 가서나 강보다 먼저 강보를 주고 있나 뭐 걸레 주세도 곧 삼 치워입니다. 봐도 대조되지 이가 삼로 땅샤이나 강보다 더 고치시기로 그랬습니다. 죄에 로스 되나지 네 삼바이나 디니기 가르치기를 분위기 내가 가르치기로서는 아니 자주성 보면 로봇이 그래서 가르치면서는 치워입니다. 뭐 고바되기 아니 수술 꾸마던 것도 자주성 본 거야. 먼저 기행 기루는 기행수도 잘 돼서 대조들이 이거 삼바되기 때문에 튕긴 상황이 하나도 최제의 튕긴 상황이 모두체 치워입니다. 뭐 저어지 아니 최 지고바되 아니 꾸마던 그래서 하나도 다들 최주는 지마도에 제가 어디 마산네 아니 단단한 내가 좋아서 마치면 하대 저와 어디 가르치는 지원에서는 치워입니다. 뭐냐고 선물마다 아니 대전 요니가 되는 선물마다 어디 내발을 했어. 또 저주 쓰면 공부 저주 쓰면도 강구 어디 공부를 해서 너무 상황.
With these considerations, then the preliminaries are performed in that way. When one considers the difficulty of achieving a precious human rebirth, that and the accompanying thought on the exceeding difficulty of achieving that rebirth, and of the imminence of death and of momentariness. These are contemplations that are the preliminary contemplations. And what they do is they open the way, they prepare the way. They're like if one is entering a house, one will enter through the door. And so these preliminary contemplations are the way that the door is opened and one may enter as though one were entering a house. So with the contemplation of the difficulty of achieving a human rebirth, of momentariness and the imminence of death, and then the uncertainty of the time of death, and the acknowledgement that at the time of death, the Dharma alone is of benefit. These are like an instructor that encourages a student, encourages and urges a student on, and then supports that person. These contemplations are a way that urges us to practice. It's encouragement and support for practice. And when we fail to perform these preliminary contemplations, then that leaves us neglecting the chance that we have, neglecting to use the chance that we have.
라니 수수 누구든 삼로 땅이나 라니 대화 루베데 수수 루고레스 라니라 미드바 강에 소니 동에 계중이 강한 수술레스 제단 디인도 삼아 랑기 대화다 랑기 동에디 랑을 렘바 요레스 제단 디인도 아니 좀 되게 가르쳐는 했으나 다니 다기 고양이스 그래서 다니 다기 고양이 다니 다기 드라이스 어예 레다 nie버 제바 테 아니 다니 다기 광고이스 어서 수수 껴버 제약이 껴버다 가르 수수 양보 수야 강 차진은 수술 열스 수술 내가 제 수술 강에 유나도 수술 마이지고 유나가 수술 세워를 만도 치료 좀 시작해요 말했을 때 되게 레다 지고 남샤디 거기 수술 야보체는 야보 요한다 누구체는 누구 요한데 근데 연구 요바디 수수수 광고식으로 했어 광고도 하고 수수 광고식으로 해서 미시다 광고체는 용하여 미시다 교 야보체로서 야보체가 말고 교 두자체로서 두자체가 말해서 수수 광고체는 아니 수수 개인의 수수 광고치 도구를 해서 그래서
So in short, one's own satisfactions, one's own dissatisfactions, one themselves is alone is responsible for these. No other is responsible for these. And for that reason, there is a saying that each is their own protector, each is their own enemy. Whether we experience satisfaction or dissatisfaction, in any case, we will have brought on that satisfaction or that dissatisfaction ourselves. We will have brought that on ourselves. And for that reason, we say that one is one's own protector, one is one's own enemy. And one's activities are the witness. Whether one has engaged in virtuous activities or non-virtuous activities, the law of karmic causality is the witness that determines what will befall one. There's no other witness to this. Another person may say, "Oh, you've done this good thing, or you've done this bad thing," but whether that's true or not, it doesn't really apply. One's own evaluation of what one has done. One is one's own witness.
Oh, yeah, that is that susu ya boy condition to condition that man change just
And so what one does, whether it's constructive or destructive, that is attested to in the way of the Bodhisattva.
Oh, yeah, that is the cause of the tuning that the watching with Jomba, because you say you perish about the and the Batata Jomba new balls, and it means the twin chambers of Papa, and it pay on the Shevas, and Tambo the Batata Jomba, Kiawatata Kubas, is it? Telayam, and the Batchimbu Jomatan, Kiawatata Kubana, Chidar David, and good Dubas, all the subjects who go to shake resumes.
And so that returns us to the text and the section that we began last week following the benefits of bodhicitta. The benefits of bodhicitta counted among them are that all negativities are overcome and all virtues may be accomplished. This section then has 3 subsections, which is the overcoming of great misdeeds, the achievement of an exceptional name and status, and an extensive explanation of the benefits of bodhicitta. Well, then this first subsection has 3 further subsections, including how the ultimate in satisfaction is achieved and the way in which that satisfaction is achieved.
Oh, so 당고 디버침부 따데 좀바 생인데 진주가 다 제세심을 올라 송 간데 송열에서나 아니 디버도 신도 메세바스 되는도 자주 셈인바 계신 관계 세진을 교로서 다 즉숨되게 아니 디버타다 좀바 땡기를 해서
And so on page 32, verse 6 in this text, the verse reads, "Virtue thus is weak, and always evil is of great and overwhelming strength. Except for perfect bodhicitta, what other virtue is there that can lay it low?
This one? Oh, this is that debut of the Shindu Messebas, debut of Jens, and Shindu Messebas, Ni Tandiduas. That debut of Jens, the debut of Chamber, the car, debut of Jens, then Kawasha was not that. You, Kazan was the Demba Shishidam, you Kunjum, the Basinjua. Oh, yeah, you Kunjum, the Badilla, Kukunju, the Bazi, Kunju, the Lanzo, led and you Nietzsche. This one. Oh, yeah, that dig Jibu de la, and it Jibu Dunge. 아니 다 바나니아와 계나 차랑게 동에 이달라 계나 제공게 동에 밀레 계나 제가 나지게 동에 둘을 계나 아니 베이 둘을 베이 내지 뜨모베 동에 아니 신지 고슈 동에 어디로 어디 동에 되게 가나 아니 디버디 왕사 디베기 제부 제부 동에 되게 어디다 디버도 제스 뭐수자 디버도 되는 뭐수가 어디 숨을 해서 제부 동에 되면이다 요구주 되면이다.
So in the second line, evil is of great and overwhelming strength. These two characteristics of evil are described: its greatness and its overwhelming strength. That greatness, the greatness of evil, I described last week in terms of, you remember too that I described the four truths of the noble ones and how there is among those four the truth of origins or the truth of the cause, and the truth of origins is the truth of karma and the mental afflictions, giving rise to results that are suffering and discontents. They take the form of the suffering, if it's of a hell being, of heat and extreme heat and cold, and of pretas, of hunger and thirst, of animals being stupid, unintelligent, and being made beasts of burden, and so on. So these results that come from karma and the mental afflictions, because of the negative results that they cause, evil is described as great in this way.
This one? Oh, yeah, that's that the what of the Tadoba said, and Kazan of the Shiata, that you Dejasheta, Zaway, two soon zero. Two Dejasheta, the most Zawar, that the Yamdola, Nadia, the Tado, but Mawira, or to get the duty, that duty get the big lesa. Lesson some of the Pajasha and Jiman Jam selling sweat tumney, Siba the Lembag sweat tumney, and Jebu Dungeda, Chimbu Minu Unguru Chesna, Panatan Lungaji on the Divasa, the Star, God Divasai, God Osum, Luita Mata, Yisumua, Sani de Savi removed to soon the set. Take it, Lunga Yisum, the Divasa, that Luigi Gone. 아니 셴나 소체 마마지바 네바 메자모체바 숨사 무르와 오야 나지고네 아니 주 타마 아니 세종아지 시사무르와 아니 셈지고네 지지고네 아니 나셈 노셈 로다 숨 어디를 룽아 있을 것 디바사에 거디 룽아 있는데 레송지.
The negativities or sin negativities are caused by the presence of the mental afflictions, especially the three poisons of desire, aversion, and ignorance. And then following two are pride and jealousy and many other mental afflictions. But these cause the accumulation of karma, and so karma is accumulated, and then these karmic latencies or proclivities then are saved away as though in seed form, and then they are brought again to germination again, fruition in existence, and existence that is craved for and then induced. And so it is then that body, speech, and mind are these three doors through which the mental afflictions create negative actions. And those negative actions of body, speech, and mind are first of body, the negative action of taking life, of stealing, of sexual misconduct. The negative activities of speech are idle chatter, lying, divisive speech, and slander. And then the negative actions of mind are covetousness, maliciousness, and wrong view.
Oh, yeah, that the Tandutima, this said conditions, that a more logical study because soon and so to what's Havana, then a so chubegi, Nami Tebudella, and in Yawala Tigre Sons. So chube Nami Tebudella, and Yawala Tigre. You do get Tebudella, and in Mato Dio, you do get Tebudella, and in Setuana. 아니 내만 보여하다 아무도 드리고도 유튜브 되고지 다 제배 되고잖아 아니 먼저 양조소 제발 가고 예봐다 아니 지금 밖에 수수를 내 양조 거는 쌓아서 가고 예봐도 아니 제가 거기 내 찍이 원기 아니 동에 들이지 양고 열어서
now to just clarify with an example, take the example of taking life. The fully ripened result of taking life is rebirth in the lower realm, and the result that is consistent with the cause is a shorter lifespan with more sickness. And then the result that is consistent with the action is that one will have a desire to continue to take life, to continue to accumulate the very same karma. And so it is that one form of negativity influences the ripening of its result in these three ways.
Oh, to say that the lake Harissa in a cosmic component that people Harissa in a Suzuki Jebu Chile Mongoyors, Jebu Penata, and so Jebu Jaratina Shimazole. So
it is with any activity of body, speech, and mind, the way in which the result comes about, just as we illustrated the coming about of a result in the case of taking life, the results will take shape for the various negative actions in various ways.
Oh, yeah, that what objects say the motion that the what object, the what option was. That she do messebas, never challenge, Rakalaka, your rest. When a duty what you the what object under the pneumonia never challenge, the Kalaka with Gioma Mazina, and never child Marwas, and then I should do Dunge, Penyawala Yana and Pen meat. Long up to Nuntal Yangova, Tinashita to Tunga Carina in a pair Mango Yango was the Tunga never child. And in you top the shoe Madena, Tunga never child Marwas. The two Children you would top them, Mother Tunga never child never into any shit to be save us. But our Mambo College of low college Jamaya and Tunga never child never did, and the Carson you the people to top chamber. And the leader goes to save a cow chat response.
So that is the way we describe or interpret the word use of the word great here. And so for the overwhelming strength of evil, it is of overwhelming strength because it is so difficult to remove. The cause in karma and the mental afflictions is without its antidote or without the antidote of virtues, nearly impossible to eradicate. So too will be the results that come from the non-virtue, the dissatisfactions, the sufferings that follow from the non-virtue. If one has fallen into a lower realm, then for 50, 60 years or whatever it may be, one is destined to suffer the consequences. So without the power, if an individual doesn't have the power of the antidote, the application of an antidote, there's no changing the course of events and one will experience that hardship for many months or years.
그래서 다 되게 이래서마다 이번 톱신데 매버 차고 위요나 다 이번 톱신 매버 간데 소래서 다 저디 랜드려도보다 딜러 탑이야쇼 아니 자주 샘스 공고래 자주 샘다 자주 샘이여와 저다 자주 샘다 아니 고조 자주 샘이여레스 다 있는 디니 나는 단다 또 가르쳐 버리면 고조 자주 샘 탑이 찾으러 오야 오다 고마이나 아니 님도 톱전레스 님도 홀 카드제니 디발로 매버 소야겠다 유조 소투니 오야 아니 자주 샘 고바도 자기 여러 자산다 대체는 아니다 자세 자주 샘벌로 저벌로 로고야기 유제로 두슬레비요 레송스.
Then the question will naturally arise, then how do you confront evil that is great and of overwhelming strength? How do you remove it? How do you oppose it? How do you meet it? And the best method for doing so is the generation of bodhicitta. And there are two forms of bodhicitta ordinarily, conventional and ultimate bodhicitta. Of these two, especially here, we're considering ordinary, or rather conventional bodhicitta, which is the method aspect, and it is the antidote. It is the antidote capable of opposing or confronting the great and overwhelming strength of evil. So it is that bodhicitta is recommended here.
뭐야 제산다 다티네 단도 바치 단도 공부치 겸이 뜻이 되잖아 이래다 다유 톱젠세 세발라야 자유선 고거래 저부 둥에 아니 다 가리 둥에 가지 때에 밀레는 제가 나지게 둥에요 심지션 두두 때 도와리 두수수 둥에 수수 둥에 되게 된다 never share 탑이 잘다 자유선 고메 아니 베타 초도 교바 장주쌤도 공부이나 아니 개와 디버 또 전부 가지고 뭐 있나요 아니 그 매버 소토야 다 자녀로 자산 여러 해송이지.
Now, if we take the next step in our interpretation here, the cause in non-virtue is great and of overwhelming strength. That is, the cause for suffering that will follow is of great and overwhelming strength. And the form that suffering will take differs according to the realm one is in. All of the realms, including the human realm, have their various forms of suffering. In the human realm, it's birth, aging, sickness, and death. But every realm has its unique forms of suffering. Now, how does one remove the causes and remove the results that are suffering? One does so by meditating upon bodhicitta, generating bodhicitta. This is the supreme method, the very best method for countering a evil or non-virtue that is of great and overwhelming strength.
오야 장중 쌤 디게는 가르치기 그래서나 말사고 디버 사히게 좀면서 그래 아니 치 사와야 사 마주고 쟤는 뭐 밖에 디버기 뿡셔기로 어디 바kaleka 좀네 아니 사와 사 마주 니버데 바 세버지도 아니 제가 디버데스 거기 매우 차야 돼. 오 드디지 수고요 그래서.
So what does bodhicitta do exactly? It thoroughly eliminates the past negativities that have accumulated. They've accumulated as a great heap of negativities. They are thoroughly removed, eradicated by bodhicitta. And later, that is subsequent negativities that one might otherwise engage in, bodhicitta prevents one from engaging in those negativities. So one, through bodhicitta, past negativities are removed and new ones are prevented from ever occurring. Okay, so with that, then how it is that negativities are removed through bodhicitta. This section is wrapped up for the moment. The way that we generally proceed is to acknowledge that negativities that lead to dissatisfaction are to be eradicated, and then satisfaction and its causes are to be generated. And so we've begun with the description of how to eradicate the negativities, and now we look to how to establish the greatest satisfaction.
다 대화초 두바세 대화초 그룹세 다디 원도 도할 점도 담보 준중 치코라지 마교기나 준중 치디 대화초 두바니스 깨버 투마라고 제바 이 통화는지 디 뱀버시 딘 세메기 소는지 대조 대가니 토고 유로서다 준중 치디래서.
And so for the supreme method for achieving satisfaction is described in the text, begins with verse 7. For many eons, deeply pondering, the mighty sages saw its benefits, whereby unnumbered multitudes are brought with ease to supreme joy. This is then the root verse from the text.
Keva Tumas, Keva Suzumadan, the did that, and I was put on Alikeva, Jelly, Jelly, the three German. Keva Tumas, the better Takanda Suzuki, Keva, Chikeva, Mama, Keva, Jemas, Keva, Tanga, or Keva Tumas, the Mongola. And that this is what the Keva Tuma, La Bonza was that, but Keva Moma Sanji. Moma Chunsimba Peta, Keva Giti the Sanji, Tandaba Sanji Chunsimbata, Tanda Chun Shimba, Momba Chumba, you Sanji Tamji, and Karichasna, and it's Semjena, Pember's Pag Semjena, Keveri, Talam Karidos, and to Taxi Chirokadula, and Radu Pes, Tankande Pesemjena, you Pem, the Karik Pingu, the Metre Tajima, whichever Resungo Resus.
For many eons deeply pondering, the mighty sages saw its benefits. For eons, eons are, let's look at eons this way. Actually, I'll go into a description of eons later, but for the moment, for in the past, in the future, for many eons, the past Buddhas, the present Buddhas, the Buddhas to come, they carefully considered what the means were for bringing satisfaction and contentment to sentient beings, and how the well-being of sentient beings may be protected and brought about. And so it was with that examination that they drew this conclusion.
What is that? One separation was one of the Jet had to go on that they were short, they were to be a second. They were to be a second. They were the conditions of Moduchi Kutua. They were the negative, they were on Tadu, they were Nicherwa. That negative, they were said that Mondo Hamiko Mantuachua. And then nearly Mondo nearly to rest that the DJ and do that Mondo Hamiko Mantobetina. 아니 타르바트 베저와 디 네가 되어 파자 다 되어 초 가르스나 대외 초디 아니 탐지게 믿고 관샤 아주 다 둘째 타두디 가르 탐지게 믿고 관데스 제가 딱 만족에 내가 타두게 되어 루브를 디 나네다 초 되어 초디 아니 탐지게 사지 있고 말을 어디 두게 되고 미유 조 데레서
Actually, best to first describe the ultimate satisfaction or the ultimate state, and the state to be achieved is of two forms: the temporary and the ultimate. Now, for the temporary satisfaction, that would describe satisfaction that is known to gods and human beings, and also liberation. That is the temporary satisfaction or temporary well-being. Now, the ultimate well-being, the best form of well-being is omniscience and Buddhahood. So of that which is to be achieved, the satisfaction, contentment to be achieved, it is of these two forms, the temporary and the ultimate. And the ultimate of those two, it is the ultimate one, omniscience and Buddhahood, that is to be achieved.
어떠지? 다 지난 다 된대기 대화초 두별라 아니 다 가리 구구도 가리 팽기도 다 된대 제바친 따지진 아니 그 산지 탐지 공부지가 양지라 아니 자주 그 샘디 지고기다 아니 팽기 요바데 시바데스 제난다 디제네 아니 자주 그 샘데 로보레스 송거레서.
So then to bring about that form of contentment and satisfaction, that form of well-being, the Buddha's the Tathagatas examined the various means for bringing that about and concluded that there was one and only one alone that led to such ultimate satisfaction, and that was bodhicitta. And for that reason, they encouraged the engagement in the training.
Oh, that membership, but that's membership. And you send deal at any that they want to get top you or the see what dance. Then you do change send dini so change send dini and same maybe given so longi and they watch the lot of top chair the top that kind of that same member so give same member that conduct 장가다 되게 member give so mambola and kal에 망고 잡고 와 아니 밖에 대화 대라도 톱 통이 아니 남들 장주선 이상 대라되네 아니 장주선 로버 도신 로고에 가르스나 아니 다 간제는 선제남지 다르고 대화 수수 두배 다르고 대화 톱이야 남초 장주선 이마다 장주선 디 공부이나 아니 배다만도 kal에 망고 잡고 앞에 류지 kal에 센다 그 죽배 쪼망고 치먹을 토네 아니 대화초 두두고 요바 인상 아니 자주 선들 로버에서 된 거를 손으시.
So the Buddhas analyzed, they examined the means for achieving the ultimate in satisfaction and saw clearly that it was bodhicitta and bodhicitta alone. And what they saw is that by bodhicitta, unnumbered multitudes, countless sentient beings are brought with ease to supreme joy. They saw that bodhicitta alone was capable of leading all sentient beings to that supreme joy. The path to that supreme joy was bodhicitta. And so it is that bodhicitta leads to the ultimate in satisfaction. And it does so without requiring excessive hardship for those laboring for the ultimate in satisfaction. It doesn't require the same strenuous application of body and mind that other forms of accumulating merit do. And so for that reason, it is also named the supreme way for achieving the ultimate in satisfaction.
수수 배도 차샤는 류기 마제 치고도 류기 배까지 망고 치고 되네요. 두준 치고 말아 치고 장유선 보라 야고지 검샤가 있나? 아니 다 내가 다두고 되는 탐지 두투에 여봐. 내 대한 내 하고 있는 두투에 여봐들이 이두 아니 장유선이 다 두고마 있나? 대화 초도 그래서 어디 sabject 된다 되래서.
Now in order to achieve liberation, according to other spiritual traditions, often austerities are required, physical austerities and silence and practices of that sort. In this case, there's no need for that. Bodhicitta, when generated, is sufficient for achieving the ultimate in satisfaction. It doesn't require the other forms of the ordinary forms of austerities. And so for that reason, it is described also as the very best means for achieving the ultimate in satisfaction.
재산 가지고 쌤도 고마이나 아니 주 개와체 제부 대화체 가지고 있는 대화는 대화 가져가서 취직은 대식스 대시자에 뭐 어디나시 나는 대화식 왔을 때마다 야 사직 살을 들어와서 뭐라 제가 되는 대화 들어와 제가 되는 일이 아니 다 삼로 당신이 수인에 다 딜라마가니 용말 제가 딜라 라보레스 라보는 벤치고 요바 안지단데 대시리 와르마이 그래서
So later on in this text, there's a verse that describes with bodhicitta as the ultimate in cause for virtue and lasting satisfaction, and as the vehicle to the state of the Sugata, the ultimate in satisfaction. Who would be dissatisfied with this vehicle?
Oh yeah, that didn't but 대화처럼 루바디 살았지. 다리네 지들 되게 동물도 봤어. 지들 되게 안 된도 봤어. 다 간지 자주 쓴 기다 간지 자주 쓴 때네. 아니랑 되게 간지 주부래 색다 sabje 디기 아니 자와디 슈기 손으로 다리라. 자와디로 시베 동에 제가 좀 되지. 선지 메디 세월 되바던 대만 자라죄를 되베잔 자주 심리 따로 땅미차 소식시들 해서.
So with that, then that verse concludes our description of the way in which bodhicitta is the supreme method. Now to the next section, which is how it is that bodhicitta brings about our every last desire. What is it that counts as our greatest desire and our many desires? What are they? They are described here in the next verse. Those who wish to crush the many sorrows of existence, who wish to quell the pain of living beings, who wish to have experience of a myriad joys, should never turn away from bodhicitta.
Oh, 다 간제 랑다 신고는 팬들이 탑초 아니 자주 쓰니 삼주 쌤들이 가진 공부를 겁나 가리요래서 저들에 손을 저들에서 다 인다 대인주자마다 디네들라 하들 잡으려서 아니 다들 디식시기 잡은 거다 다 식시기 알마 식으려도 나오이나 아니 시베 동에 자라 좀더 징스도 시베 자라 동에 좀더 딱 기부 파진 기부 딩기 아니 남땡이 열에서 기부 딩기 남대제 다디네 선지 메디세어 되와 단수리 기부 체목을 남는 거야 기부 체목을 남지 않는 것도 된 거다 다식 수바되게 대만 자라 저거 되배장 세대기 아니 기부 충이 제가 기부 충을 충수기 아니 다
Now, if bodhicitta is the supreme method for bringing about the well-being of self and other, why do we meditate upon it? How do we meditate upon it? Those questions are addressed here in this verse. Now, if we look word by word to an explanation, first in the first line, those who wish to crush the many sorrows of existence, who wish to quell the pain of living beings. That second line, who wish to quell the pain of living beings, describes those who wish to crush the many sorrows of existence. This first line is a description of the individual of middling capacity, whereas the second line, who wish to quell the pain of living beings, is a description of individuals of the greatest capacity. And then the third, who wish to have experience of a myriad joys, describes the desire of the individual of lowest or inferior capacity.
Oh yeah, that is that condition. You drink some jambe, ranju sive doing jada chomor devasila that you for the drink gasula, and that you drink some china the carrots, you drink some chance do, and rani. 코기 동엘레 타르바 되버져와 코베 동엘레 고베 동엘레 교도 통네 아니 코베 동엘레 타르바 되버져 딜레 기부 딩기 삼바장 삼바지로 디 장모들 기부 딩기 삼바장 제단다 디인도 기부 딩다 제가 거기 딱 기후 등 삼바 잠바 되게 가르치는 동행 자다 좀 그런 게 거의 교인 다다 통. 네, 예 손을 깨봐 있나요? 동행 아니 내도를 깨봐 있나요? 동행 딱 거의 강도 깨지 동행만 도미도 딱 내려 마다는 타면도 삼네. 아니 내려 달도 그 삼바 잠아들라 거와 되게 로 잠아서 레손.
So then the first line, those who wish to crush the many sorrows of existence, describes the bearing of an individual of middling capacity, whose intention is to extricate themselves from cyclic existence. That is their purpose, the purpose behind their training. And so this describes such an individual's training. They have seen the drawbacks of cyclic existence and seek liberation from cyclic existence. And so this is a description of their training. They know that to be reborn in the lower realms entails great suffering. They know too that rebirth in fortunate realms too entails suffering. And so for that reason, they wish to escape.
다 내 지니버디 기후 친구를 남겨준 걸로 전도 된 말로 기후 친구 가르치는 것은 로장한테는 다 자주 센다 니지 친구를 자야 돼. 다 자주는 니지 친구들이 가르치기 위해서는 아니 심지어 탐지 또 미디어 세워되는 동해파 세는 심지어랑도 신 심지어 탐지 동해 세워들 동해 세는 산지 고반 산지 그 살아 고버 저기 삼아 삼도단도 아니 기후 친구를 남겨준 걸로 장을 해서
Then the second verse, rather the second line, describes the training of the individual of greatest capacity. These are the trainings in bodhicitta and mahakaruna, great compassion. The trainings are for the purpose of eliminating the suffering for all sentient beings, self and others, all included, and the commitment to do so, to eliminate all sufferings for all beings.
다 지금 숨어들기 대만 자라쳐버 되면 세디기 아니 뭔도다 녀내기 대와 자라쳐버 되베 탑쳐도 주고 시에메 다 간다 지구 중국에 삼바생인데 아니 내 손을 맞이버신 세만 내신 체표네 내 손을 맞이번 사다 미 고반토베 대부토베 된다 아니 냐메 제바들 아니 지구 중국에 삼바장 수고래서
And the third verse, the third line, who wish to have experience of a myriad joys. This describes the attitude of the individual of inferior capacity. The objective of such an individual is to simply prevent their own rebirth in the lower realms and assure that with their transmigration into another life that they take a rebirth as a human being or as a god. And then they practice with that in mind.
다들 내 시바디 가르려 버스는 다 굉장히 기부순이 수수 늦음이라 수면로 찌기 타버터버 되고 찌기 모두 하는 거 반도도 찌기 심지 탐지도 산지 고반토버 되어 숨고 대순가 양 아니 장주 쌤 탑초도 주바 장주 쌤 대니를 때는 다도 깨버 치기를 깨버 제바 인상 아니 장주선이 가지고 당규요 말 그 뒤에 남아 군도 장주선은 냠내 치고 해서
So then these three lines describe the desires of these three sorts of individuals. A desire for rebirth in a fortunate realm and avoidance of rebirth in lower realms. Desire for liberation from cyclic existence, and then desire for Buddhahood on behalf of all sentient beings. And all three of these objectives, these three desires, all alike, are best served by bodhicitta. The supreme method for delivering all of those desires is bodhicitta. So at no time should one ever abandon or turn away from bodhicitta.
도주지기였다. 도주 가르치는 딱 하더디 기부 아주 상대 시행시도 좀 가르쳐야 기부 중국남 기부 등기남 기부 친구남 세자로 다 뒤따로 있나야 디스피어 가서 장주 쌤디 기부 중국의 도주기 남 말와 말해서 되면은 다 네가 테스트는 기부 등다 투모를 남 기부 중호도 투모를 남사가 되고 기부 중호기 남들 라바가 자주 샌딩 라바 있는 기부 중호기 남들 톱부에 제가 뒤에는 아니 복하게 자주 샌 코랑 다이 배는 시디 톱지 남마로 이 뒤메기 톱지 남나 거의 도마치고 지로 있나요? 가서 뒤메기 남들 자주 샌드 공부이나 람디 또바기에 저와 진짜다 이렇게 위해서 안 뒤전 자주 샌드 또바기를 쓰고 그래서 그런 자주 샌 거라 그 먼저 세치만 밀루토바쇼 아니 하이고바 토바쇼 세들이 귤을 쓰기 말와 아니 타로토도 귤 샤마를 탐지기부터 귤로와 이제 정말 그 간제 람도 러베이나 아니 대다기 제국이 러베 니버도 대바 차기여라 디찬의 모두 약간 장주성 거랑 팀에게 다바 토직이 유마와 어디 직세하고 그래서
So here one may have one's doubts about just what bodhicitta is. And because I've described bodhicitta as the means for individuals of inferior, middling, and greatest capacity to achieve their respective ends. But I must make clear that bodhicitta is not the uncommon, or it is not the respective and exclusive cause for liberation and quiescence and peace for the lower vehicles. Bodhicitta is not the cause, the cause for those unique to those lower paths. Rather, it is simply a cause. It is rather a cause common to those, but not by design for those paths. That is, if one practices bodhicitta, generates bodhicitta, it will be a cause for the realization along those lower paths, but it is not the specific cause for the ultimate goal of those paths, which is pacifications and quiescent peace. Instead, what bodhicitta is the unique cause for omniscience and Buddhahood. But it is the case that should one practice bodhicitta, generate bodhicitta, it is the cause for the realization too of the lower paths.
카스로 쉬고있는 타르바 장주선 고민들이 아니 수수 타르바 토베디 토제 지금 말은 공방제 차더라서 수수 타르바 토베디 이 타르바타 마 토베디 바까네 바빵 지기로 아니 심제 담제 콜에 교가 지기가 이내 단단히 가서 장주선 되기 거기 장주 다트메기 타르바 토베지 유지 지금 말할 때 있나요? 거기 자주성 될 때는 곧 제만 탐지기를 고발 누구도 아니 근데 탐지 톱 누구로 와? 세상 어디 되게 전에 개발지요 그랬어. 세우게 부수 돌고
So for an individual aspiring for liberation is the conclusion of abandoning all that is to be abandoned. It isn't the result of the generation of bodhicitta. Bodhicitta is the cause for omniscience and Buddhahood as one generates bodhicitta and achieves omniscience and Buddhahood, along with the accumulation of qualities in that process. Among those qualities will be liberation.
다른 이번 명의가 전혀 재벌진 도와서 다른 사람들이 당연히 근데 전혀 재벌진 도와서 어디 사람들이 싸워주시고 있나 장주 선제 주나 깨지기 그에 따라다는 양다는 대신 남지 세제 주제시 지된 함이 제배 차제 주루스 일단 명 재벌진 도와다 된 재벌진 도와서 사람들이 해서
The next section is the achievement of the name and the status, the exceptional name and status that comes along with the generation of bodhicitta. And this is described in the next verse. Should bodhicitta come to birth in those who suffer, chained in prisons of samsara, in that instant they are called the children of the blissful one, revered by all the world, by gods and humankind.
아니 거에 저러나 담배 냥답을 선제 남스다 거에 저러나 남았어 봤다 육군중 당 제부 동행이 콜 탈마주고 담대 거에는 담배 계속 도와를 주고 깨war는 이유와 오 대도 선제도 아니 콜 자주 쓴 끼찍게 봐 있나양 거 가르쳐야 되나 대신 남지 세스 Now this
verse can be divided into two, a description of the name that comes with the generation of bodhicitta, and with the import or the significance or the status that comes with the generation of bodhicitta. Now for the first, the name bodhicitta may be of two forms, aspirational bodhicitta and engaged bodhicitta. Now, in the instant that one generates aspirational bodhicitta, this prison of cyclic existence, and it's a prison in the sense that one is imprisoned in the causes of cyclic existence and caught in the bondage too of the ripening of those causes in suffering, caught in those two, caught in as though in prison. In a moment of generating bodhicitta, one is sprung free from that prison, and in that instant, one achieves the name, the title of heir to the Buddha. With the generation of bodhicitta, in that very instant of its generation, one becomes the heir to the Buddha, that is the name, the children of the blissful one, or heir to the Buddha. And that means from that day, from this moment forward, that individual has become an enterer into the stream leading to Buddhahood. And with the name heir to the Buddha or children of the blissful one, two is to be understood that one has become a Mahayanist. One has ripened their predisposition to join the family of the Mahayana.
Oh yeah, that's Ming Cheparjin Tobas raison. That Ming Twain Cheparjin Tobas. That Twain Cheparjin Kal Toburesna. 아니 즉 시바디를 딱 지된 하던 집에 차지 줘서 딱 거기 저주선 드린 다들 게 반에 손에 드네 코 가르쳐서나 하던 집은 그래서 딱 하던 미다 선제 가르쳐주나요 대탐지기 차차를 외수 줄거래서 차기가 그래서.
And for the significance then, the second section, the significance following the generation of bodhicitta, the final two lines say, in that instant, they are called the children of the blissful one, revered by all the world, by gods and mankind. So following the generation of bodhicitta, what follows is that for gods, for humankind, for all, that individual who has generated bodhicitta becomes worthy of veneration.
제가다 곧 맞았던 시련이 고되다 내세적 시련이 고되다 타도 믿던 하마에 따라서 제 비지네 이랑 대해서도 어디나시 딱 하다는 안 하죠. 아니 타도 믿던 하마이다. 아니 왜다 전주 선바다 그 담지게 아니 차처럼 되어서 차처사 어디 되게 유치하게 해서는
And then the final lines of the Heart Sutra, it says, gods and men and the Buddhas and the Bodhisattvas, non-humans and humans alike, all praise the words of the Blessed One. Similarly, with the generation of bodhicitta, that individual becomes worthy of praise and object of veneration of all. Men are humans, non-humans, Buddhas and Bodhisattvas alike.
도시 다 나도 틀려져 선제들을 장주 선제되는 만주 공주 차체 처바치고 열에서
So then, should one generate bodhicitta, then that individual with bodhicitta becomes worthy of offerings and veneration.
제가 장주 선생님이 깨버리나 아니 간다타고 자 친구 차려 하나도 그 산제 자 친구를 아니 배 라마 자 친구를 세 된다도 다 장주 선생님이 수냐면 지금 술을 빌어 얘네 코 아니 다 친구 차려 요 어디서 예번에 거래서
Anybody in whom bodhicitta has arisen becomes of the greatest significance and importance to us. We generally remain fascinated with the Buddha and with our gurus and spiritual mentors, but anyone in whom bodhicitta has arisen is a most exceptional and significant individual.
예, 제가 딱 듣고 장주를 쓴 끼기 스캔을 보고 제가 거기에 왜 선제 탐제를 좁에 치도록 하는 게 산지지고 뭐 도구이 산지고 뭐 맞나 아니 선제가 탐제 된지 두고면도 대지도록 하는 선제가 된지베지도록 아니 왜 산지고 뭐 도가 지기 대지도 장주선 별로 끼기 있으면 꼭 캔에 여자 안 되게 슈기 또기 아니 거기 내가 가르치는 또 전부 자기 열에서
Then one, with this awareness of the significance of bodhicitta, then one commits themselves to generating bodhicitta. I will generate bodhicitta because it is the means for ultimately protecting and taking care of sentient beings. Without bodhicitta, there's no achievement of Buddhahood. Without the achievement of Buddhahood, there's no addressing the well-being of all sentient beings. So it is that I will generate bodhicitta so that I may work for the well-being of sentient beings. I'm going to generate bodhicitta to do for this end, with this end in mind. And when one has that commitment, when one is committed to that, then whatever one does afterwards will be of the greatest consequence.
장주 쌤들 수를 냠내체 공주를 깨버 있나 아니 가도 있는 배 이군의 개와 아니 가도선의 개와 내가 가는 지나 개와도 아니 디버체 고급品여마를 저 지금 디제 이번에도 장주 쌤들이 깨버 있나 아니 윤대 강가 고는 콘도 배웠다 대라도 그거 지기 여버 있는데 아니 윤대 탐지가 신을 하고 차고 유전들에서
For one who has generated bodhicitta, one who is practicing bodhicitta, with the development, with the arising of bodhicitta, then all activities that they engage in become virtuous naturally. Sleep is virtuous. Whatever the activity, it is a virtuous activity by merit of the bodhicitta that has arisen. And it's impossible, there's no room for non-virtue to ever occur. And so that is the one positive feature of bodhicitta. The other is that any good qualities, any qualities already had by that individual will be increased further.
오해만 하고 동박해네 나 동박해네 그래서 요즘에 동박해네 그래 소다도 동박해네 그래 아니 이샤도 지금 피제서 좀 캐네 그래 아니 뉴네 동박해네 그래 와서 이제 가가 그 동박해네만 캐네만 저도 그다 드린 캐네만 소다 아니 동박이 받을 마셔 받으라 거기 개와디기 세야면 공도 폐야면 맞춤을 더 철저히 두고 이제 아니 디자치 붙이기 어려서 개치 붙이기 어려서 We
have all sorts of forms of vows, the Vajrayana vows, the Bodhisattva vows, the Pratimoksha vows, the vows of the Mahayana vows, the vows taken for the 24-hour householder retreat, all these vows, until that vow is relinquished by the virtue of bodhicitta, the benefit of those vows is increased.
자주 그 쌤들이 다 무식이 냠내는데 입에 그런 두제도 다 되면 와라 이거 알아는 내가 배 다다 시야 가도 시야 들에 진짜 자주 쌤들이 아니 딱 하나서 무식이 냠내 지야게 아니 다 자주 쌤들도 되지요 해서.
So the more of the heart of the practice, the actual practice of the bodhicitta, the training that bodhicitta entails, will come up as our topic later in the text. But for right now, this is a description, a preliminary sort of a description of bodhicitta.
뭐야, 나도 들은 샤 안에 나도 좋아지는 때 진짜 주심 걸 되어도야. 도바사스 때 좋아지는 내가 좀.
So here we'll stop for today, and now we have some time for questions. So if we have a discussion, some question and answers, that would be good. So was today sort of challenging? 그래서 네, 뭐만 나신 클릭하고 중만 송 들으니.
엄마는 가르쳐는데 이런 단도 찍고 시에 찍어라다 그러는데 내가 엄마는 그러는 거 지금 드시면 이제 그 생각도 저 가도 시에야.
Well, that's funny because this is the same topic, same material as last week. Already. 그래서 전작 뭐마 다 니코네 데 페티슈네 다 레와 큐네요 말에 레와 갭사 큐네 요서 말에 아니 사마데 코르송 레와 참 해봐 근데 아니 서로 딜랍송사 그러니 틱박 그래서 틱박 양양 했었네
근데 답시 요즘 검색이 다 갈래시라 자모와 아니 거기님부 디버디 좀 투에 여봐 다디 윤센도 된다 디 장류선 러야 윤센도 된다 디레송을 아무도 배난 모티버디 여러다 배 수수 미세 강산 루이지까지 제 아니 동문제송과는 좀 많다고 더블레로 아니 니 대가도 자가도 도와대 자르스 제가 연남만 안디가 또 뭐조는 뭐든 니만 주주 니만 대고도 그때까지 지고 말와 수수 저주심 현재 선진 전달로 수수 가서 배도 지투도나 즉 다들 다 간다 수수기 심 니만을 직직 번은 지금 니만 찍어 차선 장투와도 연구 말와 있나요 아니 수수 드링 배는 심지는 많이 వెళ్ళ가 지체 아니 심지는 배도 연락제 그 검내오는 장주심 고라는 표현을 또 했는데 디버디게 먼저 싸고 디버디게 맞좀나 더 된다도 사실 레 맞아죠 어떻게 봐내서 그래 아니 개와 싸와 디버 싸와 마싸와 지고와 어디는 답시 지고를 해서는
So it's not hopeless because bodhicitta is the antidote. Bodhicitta is the method for meeting the non-virtues, the mass of non-virtues that is so forbidding otherwise. It is the method for countering them, and it's also the method that's comparatively easy if you compare it to the means that other spiritual traditions use to achieve liberation, including all sorts of forms of austerities, including practices as extreme as walking on, for many hours a day, walking on beds of or nails, walking on sharp nails as a form of physical hardship that leads to liberation. Compared to traditions like that, bodhicitta is effortless. And so bodhicitta is something that we then can work on, practice every day, and it won't happen that it occurs for us instantaneously and is successful for us instantaneously, but bit by bit, by design, what bodhicitta does is it serves to remove all of the accumulated non-virtues and prevent us from engaging in any more new non-virtues. And by virtue of that, the situation is not so hopeless.
자주 쌤 떡치를 그런 게 떡치므로 한다 요새는 아니 쌤 가가는 다 떡치셔도 자기가 그랬어. 떡치셔도 간다 그다 배 쌤제 탐지 상마 예바도라 배기 쌤들치기 배들이 그 수수고 삼바 숙치고 쉬지 다 죄네 캘린제와 제가 거기 캘린지 마저 봐도나 자주 쌤들이 이 배우기 내대로식으로 와 제가 내가 그 떡치고 요랬어. pero 차지하면 아무도 pero 딱 먼저 내가 들어지 뭐이나 다 지금 찍을 내가 요 로직을 내가 요 뮤직 강산 내가 요와 제가 듣는 시제 아주 뮤직 강산 당할 내가 지어이나 아니 니만 찍다 나와지도 쉐로 그런 라오면 뒤로 와 듣는 시요를 제가 뒤도 자주 쓰면서 다 거기 스케일레비 개와디 아니 거기 내가 슈 좋아요 그래요 말씀드린 때문에 상마지 보다는 그 쌤들이 슈트 이거도 되기로 왔어. 제가 어디인가 걸 슈트를 또 집으려고 그래서.
Now, of all the mental attitudes, the intentions that are possible, bodhicitta is the most powerful of all, and that is because the commitment to bodhicitta, the commitment is to remain committed to bodhicitta, engaged in bodhicitta until one achieves enlightenment. So until that time, the commitment to bodhicitta remains. And that means that all the virtuous activities that one engages in that time until one's enlightenment all falls within bodhicitta. And it's like a person who has some work and works for a full lifetime at whatever that is, whatever that project is. Then in the end, after a full lifetime's work, it also happens naturally that one day's work from that whole lifetime and a month's work from that whole lifetime, that all falls within that lifetime of work. And so it is with bodhicitta, all time until enlightenment, all of that virtuous activity falls within the commitment of bodhicitta.
먼저 다시 기우순 남시인가 기우순 남시도 좀 나 기우 중문들이 세심한 손을 맞게로쇼 나도 믿고 반토쇼 만원제로와 켈레로와 켈레를 곧다 세심한 하도 믿고 반토스나 그 되고 저다 배는 저러와 다디 기우 등들이 나 콜 맞게로쇼 섬나단 난 콜을 타로쇼 콜 타로토쇼 라고 그 타와토디 그 개와도 저러와 다 장주 샘되기 샘제 탐제 상마제 봐도 샘제 탐제 상제 살고 보이 배 디지도 좀 딱고 샘제 탐 거기 개와디 상마제 봐도 좋은 거 물어봐 샘제 탐제 상마제 봐도 그 계획 슉 되기래 아니 대마저 상제 살도 그 다도 개와디 좋아하면 어떤 숙체를 그러면 총도 말로 제가 곧 덮치고 샘 강하는 또 네버치슈 덮치슈도 잘해 그래서
We describe three kinds of individuals of inferior, average, and then greatest capacity. And those individuals of lesser capacity are committed to, have vowed to train in order that they don't take rebirths in the lower realms, that they avoid rebirths in the hell realms, and instead achieve human or rebirth as humans or gods. And so that is their purpose. When they achieve that, then all of the virtues that led to that are exhausted then. result has been reached, and then the causes are exhausted. For the individual of middling capacity, they're committed to liberating themselves from cyclic existence. Their purpose is liberation. And so when they achieve liberation, then all of the virtue that brought about liberation in the end, all of that virtue is then exhausted. But the unique circumstance of an individual training in bodhicitta, because their commitment is to all sentient beings, until they achieve enlightenment and until all sentient beings' well-being is achieved, the virtue that individual engages in remains unexhausted. They're limitless and endless. And even when that individual achieves enlightenment, because sentient beings remain, that virtue only increases. So there's no exhausting the virtue of an individual who's training in bodhicitta.
Zoom participant has a question. Thank you so much for teaching, Geshe-la. The question is, in the beginning of verse 9, is the bodhicitta referring to conventional or ultimate bodhicitta? Also, can Geshe-la say more about ripening the predisposition to join the family of Mahajanists?
장축 심 세리디 군섭 기장심 야면은 단단 기장심 가기고 그래
그 단단 지난 단단도 네가 고치고요. 이거 아주 그대로 전화 전주 샘생저와 전화 전주 샘생의 니모고 자와로 카페장에 들어가서
너무게
니모고 더 니모고 자와로 카페장에 들어가 단지 카페 소리 저어디 들었다 전화 전주 샘들어가서 딱 전화 전주 샘디 흉침부 용하나 가리고서는 구도 전주 샘도 거 어제도 구도 다들 나도 지 커도 되지 야리 구조 전주 샘가 거래서 이내 니가 되시 야 요래서 이내 단단도 구조 전주 샘들가 표현식이 여러 와서 어디지를
both forms of bodhicitta may be understood here. However, when we consider ultimate bodhicitta is understood to be the direct antidote to the mental afflictions, and especially their cause, self-identification or identity view, or grasping at the ostensible self. Ultimate bodhicitta is the direct antidote to that identity view. In order for ultimate bodhicitta to develop, one requires conventional bodhicitta as well. So here in this verse is a presentation of the benefits of conventional bodhicitta. 택친기 릭 세바디 택친기 릭 세야라 아니 규 간디스 민거래 규티스
인지친구 섬제 탐지 동행을 껴받치기 이사바디 인지친구와 섬제 탐지 동행을 껴받치기 이삼 대껴버 시도도 아닌 섬제 탐지 동행을 껴봐 탑 가르고 탑디는 전주선 계획을 하고 하죠로 어디끼리 그 대신도 생겨봤다 아주 미수미나 코디르샤 뜻이다는 코다 대신하셔 그 사람들이 당는 거로 코 대면이죠 가지고 코 수수도 어떻게 사람들도 타르바토에 사람들도 코 대면이죠 코 탐지기 뭐만 도에 사람들도 대신하셔서 저로 거기다 선점이 니에버다 어디든 대신도 있어.
Mahakaruna, great compassion, that ripens the individual who becomes a Mahayanist or who ripens into the family of the Mahayana, Mahakaruna. And Mahakaruna, great compassion, is the overwhelming desire to part all sentient beings from their suffering and the causes of their suffering. And when one is overwhelmed with the desire to do just that, then they'll search for the best method for doing that. And when they search for the method for bringing relief to sentient beings from all their sufferings, they find that bodhicitta is the method, and then they generate bodhicitta. So Mahakaruna is the means for ripening an individual into that family. And the difference between individuals of these various kinds, Mahayanists and non-Mahayanists, it's like three people walking together, and you say of one person, well, this person really is in the family of the Mahayana because this is how they think, this is what they want to do. And then they say this person is an ordinary individual with an ordinary preoccupation with themselves, and they're only interested in liberation from samsara. But this person stands apart. He or she is Mahayanist because they think in this way.
Since the ultimate bodhicitta refers to a realization of emptiness. So I'm thinking that when we talk about the benefit of bodhicitta in this chapter, and we're referring to a lot of times, we're referring to normal people. So ultimate bodhicitta is way outside of our reach. So doesn't this apply to mostly conventional bodhicitta that we're talking about?
그래서 이 단단히 장축기 셈서리디 지단 고아 가르르스나 아니 똥니 똑배 셔 라고그레 다 얘네 디 레유 딜라야 얘는 디 shum딜라야 다 닝든 돈다 소디 아니 미타멜버기 고아 랭이 제두레 아니 디 미타멜버 라핑이 제두레 제자니 펼쳐 딜라야 아니 돈다 소디 kunzok 장심 인스레 아니 그래서 아니 돈담기 장심디 파르샤
그래서 되게도 차 내렸다지 먼저 냠낸 지당 저와 미스 냠낸 지당들 탑 차대 냠낸 제 직세 아니 싫어 차 냠낸 제 이열와 이는 딱 한달 군이 직제 직마지 유배도 요 말했어 이는 수수기 냠낸 집에서 뭐 탑을 슉체 제거하다 싫어서 슉체고 제거 두주 열어서 두주 가가 열어서 난 먼저 남도 당불럽도 잠바 내 당보 생겨와 내 군조 전주선들 당보문을 약속하고 그랬어 군조 전주선들 약속 차나 아니 전화 전주선 주도 그랬어 그래서 나들 선제로 키로 주고 이러나 그 주야게 주에 키로와 이내 그 주야게 잘라도 약속 걸어와 어디 나시지 전화 전주선들 주고 이렇게 주야게 튀기 군조 전주선들 인지미지 개침부 차를 제가 당고 장주 군조 전주선들 인지미지 내로 장고를 해서
Okay, that's fair. When we practice there are these two aspects, the aspect of the method and the aspect of wisdom. There are these two, and so at no time really should we discard one or say it's especially this and not that, or especially that and not this. That they're complementary. And so at times you might give greater emphasis to one or the other, but they're always complementary. And so it's true that now, considering ourselves as beginners, then it's important to begin with contemplation of conventional bodhicitta, because that provides a sort of handle and access to ultimate bodhicitta. It's a handle. It's our means for getting our first grappling with the ultimate bodhicitta. And then when a good sound understanding of conventional bodhicitta is ascertained, then the ultimate bodhicitta will ensue from that.
Conditional bodhicitta is the same as conventional bodhicitta?
Can you repeat that?
You said the conditional bodhicitta is the same as conventional?
Oh, I didn't ever say conditional. I didn't. May have sounded
Conventional.
conventional.
Okay.
다 간달 먼저고 탑시에 가르스나와 니무 반내부 소로와 다 니무 내부 소로다 니무 자와 내부 소야 자와 가르 내부 소로스나 단지 지로 저와 단지 내부 소야라 가르고래 단지 내부 소야라 아니 다음에 또 베시라도 거와 다음에 또 베시라면은 단지 내부 소통 말 거기 단지 담에도 베시라도 톱수는 단지 맞춤 루래 단지 슈처스는 담에도 베시라도 맞춤 루와 이도 갑자기 진거다 수진 또는다 다만도 나도 단도 빼도 차샤바 있는 단지 저와 단지디 아니 나도 크셈나로 곰 빼고 버치고 옹요 곰에 옹게 슈침보였다 다 주중모는 담에도 베시라도 되나 가리요래 콜 덴바요 덴바요라서 다 덴바요에서 다 거기 다들 커도 다들 나도 내 담보와라 단지디 슈체 담에도 베시라도 슈충해요 다쌤 겁나 담에도 베시라도 콜 균세요 덴바요에서 고 갈래 갑자기 잘 들어와 이마지 고 슈치야 잘 들어와 배도 차지는 나도 베베기 지도로 차지는 베베기 지도 나도 개미 갑자기 크도 짜도에 뭐 개미 또 조심 빼시 보러 때는 나도 가려 대바이스 대배 온데 대바 더 주시게서 어디 더우더지 나도 담에 또 베시로 필요 고 균세한 멤버들이 여러 다 단지들은 고 나도 쌤나 곰도 또 슈도 여러 이내 군이 갈래 진 갈래 담에 또 베시로 톡을 해서 고 토베 자기 자산벌로 열해서
Ultimately the root of the mental afflictions is identity view, or the habit of grasping at the ostensible personal self. And to eradicate mental afflictions, that identity view must be eliminated. And in order to eliminate identity view, one must have insight into the absence of this so-called identity or self. So it is that this wisdom, realizing the absence of any personal self, is the direct opponent of the mental afflictions and identity view. It is what it confronts mental afflictions rooted in identity view. So the greater one's wisdom, the weaker that identity view and the mental afflictions that stem from identity view. So they are facing off and confronting one another in that way, and sparring with each other, wisdom against the deeply rooted identity view. And in this mind now that we have, identity view is firmly entrenched by habit. And so it has that strength of being entrenched by habit, but on the side of wisdom and the absence of the ostensible self, the absence of the person, that has truth on its side, the actuality, reality, truth and reason, all on its side. So with that behind it, eventually the wisdom, realizing the absence of the ostensible self, will grow in strength, and the mental afflictions rooted in identity view will be weakened, because ultimately the wisdom has truth on its side. And it's a lot like the current situation, political situation in Tibet, where right now the Chinese occupy Tibet, and there's no means now for Tibetans to directly confront that occupation. They don't have the power, but ultimately the truth is on the side of of the Tibetans, and in time that will prevail. And similarly, truth and reason is on the side of the wisdom realizing the absence of the inherent. So.
근데 주제 지금 왔다. 거에 싸워 거에 싸워 받지 오로. 실제 벌은 다음에 또 비셔를 거르스. 단지 다음에 또 비셔를 거에 싸워 가래. 나도 두번 짐바들어와. 나도 두번 짐바디 제일 가르고스나. 나도 맞고 다음에 또 비셔를 거르스. 대나지 탐지 캠을 두고 고반 토발라스. 탐지 캠을 두고 산지 고반 토발라. 가르고 시행지지 거. 가지나 랑진지 매워 소와 제가 랑진지 매워 소고도 다시 랑진지 매워 소도 시행진지 소와 제가 비 시행진지 매워 차라 아니 장주선의 닝지되게 마음 탐에 차요 레송스
And one further point, the root of cyclic existence, which must be cut, is identity view. And it's the wisdom realizing the absence of the inherent self that cuts that identity view and cuts the root of cyclic existence. This is the situation because it is self-grasping, holding to this self that is taken to be truly existent, that is the root of cyclic existence. It's met by the wisdom, met and overcome by the wisdom realizing the absence of this apparent self. Now, similarly, the means for achieving omniscience and Buddhahood is especially cherishing others. Cherishing others is the cause for omniscience and the state of Buddhahood, because foiling omniscience and Buddhahood is self-cherishing, cherishing the self. So in order to achieve omniscience and Buddhahood, one must cherish others. This is the antidote to self-cherishing. And for that reason, then one must generate bodhicitta and practice compassion. So now we may dedicate the virtue of contemplating the benefits of bodhicitta to dispelling the suffering of humans, the suffering of birth, aging, sickness, and death, and in particular the suffering of many during the pandemic. We can dedicate the virtue of our contemplation to that when we recite our closing prayers. Page 12, the long room.
Rangi jijin tobe lamji ne shudra tsewe drangwe dambe Dove yiji mungwa seje ne yuri Tembo rinche choji majamba Chabja nyamba yure chode Yinje jembo ira jewa ye Pede seje dewa jemo Seje jawe menjun tele Lejo janju lamje rembe Kadu namje yiba pede je Jawe zeba Lamsan drube tujin druje je Gegen seje medame Tsera kundu yawe mamba yi Nanda lapa dewa magyo
Deva Chola Juju Sujin Dula Zumba De Tuden Namge Tatu Doji Taji Gyazu Jugun Yuji. From my two collections, vast as space that I have amassed, from working with effort at this practice for a great length of time, may I become the chief leading Buddha for all those whose minds, wisdom, eye is blinded by ignorance. Even if I do not reach this state, may I be held in your loving compassion for all my lives, mantra truth. May I find the best of the paths of the complete teachings, and may I please all the Buddhas by practicing. Using skillful means drawn by the strong force of compassion, may I clear the darkness from the minds of all beings with the point to the path as I have discerned. May I uphold Buddha's teachings for a very long time, with my heart going out with great compassion in whatever direction the most precious teachings have not yet spread or once spread have declined. May I offer this treasure of happiness to aid all sentient beings. May the minds of those who wish for liberation be granted bounteous peace, and the Buddha's deeds be nourished for a long time by following the complete graduated path to enlightenment and the wondrous virtuous conduct of the Buddhas and their sons. May all human and non-human beings that eliminate adversity and make things conducive for practicing the excellent paths never be parted in any of their lives from the purest path praised by the Buddhas. Whenever someone makes effort to act in accordance with the tenfold Mahayana virtuous practices, may he always be assisted by the mighty ones, and may oceans of prosperity spread everywhere.
Dagi Jinye Sabe Gewande Dendan Roa Kuna Gambe Jeba Jizu Lozon Tabo Yi Dembe Nimbu Rilu Senje Kani Rabe Kove Shingum Nir Pendan Dewa Malu Jove Jere Sewan Dilzin Gyazu Yi Shabe Site Madu Dengyo Jambe Bawo Jinar Jemba No Kundu Sambo Leyan Deje Vedam Kunji Jesu Dano Je Jewa Deda Tamje Radu Teso Shebe Gyawa Tamje Je Mowa Kangla Choku Napa Taki Yewe Sawa Deku Jan Sambo Jeje Radu Andu Sendu Rindu Maje Pana Yewa Nyamba Emba Kone Kondo Bewo
I dedicate whatever virtues I have ever collected for the benefit of the teachings and of sentient beings, and in particular for the essential teachings of Venerable Losam Japa to shine forever. In the land encircled by snowy mountains, you are the source of all happiness and good, all-powerful, transcendent and counsel. Please remain until cyclic existence is ended. Just as the brave Manjushri and Samantabhadra too realize things as they are, also I dedicate all these merits in the best way, that I may follow their perfect example. I dedicate all these roots of virtue, with the dedication praised as the best, by the victorious thus gone ones of the 3 times, so that I might perform the noble Bodhisattva. May the supreme jewel Bodhicitta that has not arisen arise and grow, and may that which has arisen not diminish, but increase more and more. Thank you. Thank you. I got some cement dust in my throat, and it's itching my throat. All right. Thank you. Good night.